Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Seahawks Forever. Hope you are in your June routine and it's everything you wanted it to be. We are just waiting for our pool to open. I think we're waiting for a health inspection tomorrow, and that should be good to go for the weekend. I'm Dan. This is the show at Seahawks Forever on Twitter and all the other places that you want to follow me. You can do that, and let's get all that out of the way here so that we can just get to the guest on the other side of the intro, shall we? At Seahawks Forever on Blue Sky and Twitter. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hit that thumbs up to like the video. If you want notification of new content, just hit that bell button. And then every other way that you can support me as a full-time content creator is all linked down below. A couple of new things to jump on. Get over on Patreon and check out the membership tiers over there. I'll be releasing an extensive look at Sam Darnold's Red Zone production last year with some All-22 tape. That'll be posting in the next 24 hours. If you're a paid member here on YouTube, you'll also get early access to that video. And then the new online store where you can get things like this lovely coffee cup. I feel like Wayne from Wayne's World with the product placement. But check that out. The link is down below, and you should just see the store under the picture as well. Okay, now that we have that out of the way, Dayna O'Gorman, my old co-host from the Field Gulls podcast, also does all that stuff over at Our Turf and is a member of the Pro Football Writers Association. Going to be joining me again. First time we've had a chance to catch up since the draft. Going to get her reaction to something we talked about before the draft that she hoped would happen, and it did. And now we get to talk about it being a reality. And then we're going to talk a lot about this defense. That's kind of her passion. And also the possibility of maybe John Schneider breaking a dry spell and taking a big swing on a big name and maybe making a trade and bringing a star in to add to this team. What do you think about that? We're going to talk about that next with Dayna O'Gorman up next.
Welcome to the Seahawks Forever podcast. In-depth analysis on everything Seahawks. And now, here's your host, Dan Viens.
Just trying to decide which frame to use. I think, no, I don't like that one. Let's go with this one. Let's do that. You're muted.
I am so sorry. I wanted to make sure there was no noise during your intros.
Yeah, that was way too up close there to start with. This is much better. How are you?
It was good, but now I want one of those cups. That's nice. Those are nice looking. I like it.
You can get one of your own. Maybe I'll send you one. You've probably been on the show more than anybody else. You deserve a cup.
Oh,
you can get it in 2 different logo types.
Oh my heaven. Love it. Yeah.
I know, right? Yeah.
How are you?
It's great. Yeah. I'm good. Yeah. We are getting closer to training camp. The final top 50 list is out today. I'm going to react to that in a little bit. That's fun.
I'm a little irritated about that too, but go ahead.
Are you? Yeah. I heard there's some things today actually in the release that I haven't caught because I want to react to it blind, that I was surprised by. Some kicker controversy, perhaps, is what I'm hearing.
Interesting.
Well, let's do this. As I teased at the top, this is our first time getting together since the draft. And I want to start here because we did a show together. I had you on shortly before the draft, and we called it, I asked you to bring your list of must-haves, players that based on what you got to see at the Combine, and specifically in meeting these players and in their interviews, guys that just struck you as Seahawks, right? Checking all those boxes that John Schneider likes to check. And I thought it was interesting because there was one name right off the top. So let's just go back in time and revisit that for a moment, shall we? Okay. You put a little list together for me today of 5 guys that you thought, as you were listening to them speak, just sounded like Seahawks. Just start at the top here and kind of tell me first about Nick Emenwari, which right off the bat, you're going to be really popular with a bunch of my viewers because he's kind of the biggest draft crush out there in Seahawk land right now.
And why wouldn't he be? He's Cam Chancellor II, right? And the funniest thing about this is that in his interview, you're standing there and he was asked about being compared to Cam Chancellor, and he just grinned from ear to ear. It was the best thing ever.
Little history in the making there. What do you think now that he is a Seahawk? What was your reaction when he was drafted?
Oh my God. That was my reaction. So The first night of the draft, I did a live with the Hawk Blogger crew for the whole draft. That was very fun and everything. But that second day, my husband made me go camping, and that was fine because we had planned it forever. And I was like, come on, right? But we went. I had a little bit of service here and there, but man, I was kind of glued to my phone. And so when that came through, I might have scared a few wild animals because I just hollered. I was so excited about this. He just seemed to fit so nicely. And we'll see. Here's the thing. I got a lot of flack after he was drafted. They're like, oh, Dayna's happy now, but what about this about him? What about that about him? And all the things, the whataboutisms come out. I know this kid is not going to come straight out of the gate and act like a Legion of Boom player, but he seems so teachable and he's so excited and he has the characteristics I think that will fit very nicely in this defense. So yeah, I'm still real excited about Nick.
I just like that mindset, right? That as soon as these kids get drafted, we start punching holes in them, or even before now. And I think part of it is that all fans now have almost as much access to these players and the interviews and the workouts and everything that happens through draft season. They can even get all 22 tape that, they feel like they have a stronger opinion now because they know the player better. But just the idea that a 21-year-old who only he was a true junior coming out, right? Because he started as a freshman, played his 3 years. He's barely 21 years old. He's not going to be a complete player. If he was a complete player, he would have gone in the top 5. Even those kids in the top 5 aren't going to show up day one and be seasoned veterans and know everything. And so, it's the upside with him. I just like, you mentioned the Cam Chancellor comps, hear a lot of that. And then obviously we hear a lot of Kyle Hamilton because of Mike McDonald's experience with him in Baltimore, bigger safeties, right? And specifically Hamilton was used a lot in the box, as was Cam for most of his career. I thought I winced when those comparisons were first started to be bandied about, right? Because man, it's too much to live up to, right? Like
it's a big responsibility for them, a big burden, truly.
And some players can crumble under that. I think that's one of the reasons Tedrick Thompson really never had a chance to make it, right? Like that kid had 8 interceptions his senior year. He looked like a ball player, but when you come in, and Schneider referred to this later in that maybe they had missed some of their draft evaluations because they underestimated how tough it was to walk into that locker room with Earl and Cam already there, right? And then trying to live up to that, like I can't take playing time from those guys.
Right. That intimidation factor is a lot. And it's that way for any rookie, no matter. I mean, there are some rookies that walk in and own the place, but I would assume for most rookies, they're getting in there, they're wide-eyed. Brock Heward, I think it was either yesterday or today, was talking about his freshman in high school that he's coaching now. And he said they're like, where do we sit? They're like little, and it's kind of the same, even though they're now seasoned professionals, which they're really not. I just think it's kind of the same intimidation factor for sure.
But that being said, I like everything I'm hearing coming out of OTAs and practices about his approach, his mindset. He doesn't shy away from the Cam Chancellor thing, as you even mentioned. It seems like he's really willing to take coaching. That there was the first rep on the first open practice 3 days ago where he took kind of a bad angle in a little bit of an angle drill, basically. And everybody, some people threw that up and ran with it like, oh, there's a lot of that on tape that he's going to have to fix that, without any context. And then Corbin Smith came in later and said, wait a minute, coaches talked to him after that rep. The next 3 reps were perfect. Yeah. Right. And actually Corbin just tweeted about an hour ago that he had his best practice yet today. So I'm excited to talk to him actually tomorrow. He'll be on the show and get.
Isn't that interesting? They have a couple days of repetition and they get better. Who would have known? Who would have guessed?
Coaching, right? Players get better and they learn. I heard something last offseason. I think it was early in the season that I have not been able to forget, and I hope I never do. Kirk Cousins was on the Rich Eisen show, and Rich, they were talking about reading defenses and progressions and things like that, and how tough it is for young quarterbacks. And Rich asked him, like, how long did it take you? How long you been in the league until you really felt like you could read defenses and progress at a high level? And he said, my 4th or 5th season. And this was a guy who started his 2nd year in the league. Like I think we forget about that sometimes. Me
too. Right? And we forget how young these 21-year-old kids are, because we do have a lot of players coming out now who are 24, 25. They're older, right? The COVID years added up. But when they come out and they are truly that young, I mean, I remember when my son was that age and he was an idiot. So, I mean, so
I remember when I was that age.
yeah.
Yeah, I was an idiot. Yeah, still kind of am.
No.
Still trying to grow. Never ends. The process, the journey never ends, right?
That's right.
Before we get into some of this trade talk, because
Mhm.
I haven't really touched on it yet in the show, but it's something that won't die, and fans really like to talk about it. And I haven't completely dismissed it yet, so I thought, well, let's tackle it head on. But I wanted to get your thoughts just on the defense as a whole, especially in light of some of the things that we're hearing them say this week, right? All 11 starters coming back on this defense, 15 players who started at least one game. I'm not going to scour every depth chart in the league and chart all of that, but I would venture to guess that no one else can claim that there isn't another team in the league with that kind of continuity on one side of the ball. That being the case, and they're coming out this week, and Jaron Reed saying now it's our second year together, right? We know each other. We know the scheme better. They can open the playbook more. We can get more aggressive. We can play faster. How come that defense doesn't seem to be getting enough respect nationally, and that the Seahawks are still being picked to win 6-7 games, despite having a defense that's all together and from the bye week on last year was top 5 in every major category?
So I think there's two factors played there. So I think number one, when they talk about the Seahawks only winning 6 to 7 games, they are truly talking, I think, more about this offense and the question marks around that than necessarily the defense. I think that shows that the media discounts really good defenses more than necessarily just the Seahawks defenses.
Yeah, they must.
But the interesting thing to me is that that the last year I was real hesitant about Mike Macdonald and this team. I didn't want to get my hopes up. I didn't buy in like everyone else did immediately.
Sure.
Until the end of the season, and you could watch that defense just kind of learn it and grasp it. And they have said, multiple players have said that this is a very complicated playbook, that they are learning schemes that are very hard. Like, this is really diverse and in-depth, and it's taking them a while to grasp it. And you could see that in their play as the season went on. They just got a little better and a little better and a little better until, like you said, the end of the season was fabulous. So I think some of that credit is coming over this year for the defense, but they're not forgetting the first part of that year. I am completely forgetting the first half of last year. That to me was nothing but a learning curve, right?
Yeah.
And so I am so jacked for the defense this year. And I love defenses. I could care less about offenses, but I like defenses a lot. And I really,
some points.
I know, right? I know. On defense, you can do that. I'm just kidding. But I think that you can see by the way they're talking, not just Reed, but Leah, all of them, they just really seem to be in it and very confident within themselves. And I don't know that we had that last year at the beginning of the season, especially this time last year. And so that's very encouraging to me. I think if in those first couple of games, or even in the one preseason series that the starters will play, if you see some of that, I think that the narrative on that will change very quickly. Go ahead.
I just can't shake the parallel of what Mike Macdonald did in Baltimore. His first season there as defensive coordinator when he came back from Michigan. Defense wasn't all that good the first half of the season. Gave up 55, I think, to Miami in one game, and it took them a while to find their footing. And then about the midway point, stop me if you've heard this before, right? They acquire Roquan Smith. He moves Kyle Hamilton to a little bit of a different role. The scheme starts to stick and sink in. Second half of the season, they were really good, much better. And then the year after that, in his second full season coaching that defense, guess what? They were number one, the only defense ever to finish number one in all those major categories. So I think that's lost on some people, especially when you look at the schedule and the two divisions that we're playing in our rotation, right? The NFC South, AFC South. If you just look at all the young quarterbacks that have to face this defense, you get 8 wins right there almost. So it's just I need to just accept it and let the
keep this in mind. The last time Seattle was this, I hate to say ignored, because I think because of the way sports radio is now, every team gets a lot of coverage because it's 24/7, right? But if you want to say that a team has just kind of been like, oh yeah, and then there's the Seahawks, the people are, the major media people are saying that they'll be 3rd or 4th in the division. They just aren't giving a ton of credence to them. the last time that happened, we were 2 years from winning a Super Bowl. And so I think that is something that I kind of cling to a little bit, is that, well, I don't mind being discounted. Now, this is a completely different group of players, a completely different group of coaches. And so they might not hold that chip, but they feel a little chippy, right? Like especially Mike McDonald. And I will say, I've seen a huge difference in him. Now, like I said, it took me a while to get on board with him. Halfway through the season, I'm like, I kind of was understanding his vision at that point. Still hated the offense like everybody did, but I caught it a little bit more. Even I can see that he just has relaxed a little bit, right? He's kind of come into his own. And on an interview, he said, I don't want to say, don't ask me what the difference between year 1 and year 2 is, because there is no difference, but he is different. And I feel like that has become very relevant. He's really kind of come into his own, which, I mean, you'd expect. It's his second year. He was just a brand new head coach last year.
In practice and yelling at guys. And
I love that.
Himself,
right? I think that's really important. But I'm not worried about this defense. I'm so excited to watch this defense. And I think that is going to become the major dominance on our team again, which makes me so happy. So now the offense, I don't know, Dan.
Well, we're not here to talk about offense. But I understand. I do understand some of the hesitation for people to buy what the Seahawks are doing, because, while the changes weren't sweeping on offense, they certainly were on the coaching side.
Yeah.
But when you trade your number 1 receiver and your starting quarterback, people are going to be skeptical that the replacements, especially when the receiver is coming off some injuries and the quarterback only has 1 good year. I get it. I get that part of it. I just think that the defense is going to come out of the gate with all that continuity, right? And be able to keep them in games if there is a learning curve early in the season for that offense. But also go back to New Orleans last year. There wasn't much of a learning curve there. They came out of the gate on offense with a brand new offensive coordinator named Clint Kubiak and just lit the world on fire. But
I'm not so worried. I know we're not here to talk about offense, but I'm going to say this. I'm not worried about Sam Darnold. I know that's like a new thing with the fans, is all of a sudden Sam Darnold's going to fall apart and crumble. I don't buy that at all.
Everyone focuses on the quarterback. Yeah,
I know.
I think whether this offense succeeds or not, it's going to come down to how well they run the football. And I don't think that's getting enough attention. And that's why I loved Abe Lucas coming out yesterday, just looking
real happy,
looking pissed, which means he's healthy, right? Like he's just ticked off that he hasn't been himself for 2 years, hands in his pockets,
right?
And just being surly. Like, I loved his interview yesterday, talking about how they want to dominate.
I think they're going to be just fine.
Yeah. But on defense, to the question earlier of maybe why they aren't getting the attention that they might deserve based on all the players they have coming back and how well they played last year, maybe it's also because they really don't have any stars. Like nationally recognized stars, right? There's guys we like, there's guys with talent, but even the guys that we really like, that we think are the most talented on the team, haven't broken out yet. Like, I understand why the national media doesn't put Devin Witherspoon in their top cornerback lists yet. I get it. Why maybe people are sleeping on Byron Murphy a little bit going into his second year. I get that too. Even Leonard Williams, who was their best player last year, is kind of a quiet, unassuming, under the radar guy, not a big star, right? But if they want to get one, this might be the time to do it, because all the biggest names that are rumored to be or reported to be or potentially available to acquire are defensive players. And there's 3 in particular that everybody wants to talk about. We're just going to start kind of from the oldest to the newest, right? Trey Hendrickson's been out there for months now.
Yeah.
Total contract impasse with Cincinnati Bengals, who have been notoriously stingy in negotiating contracts. They finally got it done with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. I didn't think they'd get them both done. They finally did, but it took forever. And they probably cost themselves tens of millions of dollars by not getting it done earlier. And now here they are with Trey Hendrickson, their star pass rusher, 31 years old, due to make $16 million in 2025 in the last year of his deal. But he says he will not play under that current contract, either in Cincinnati without an extension or anywhere else. So anyone who acquires him would have to understand that a new deal would have to be worked out. Plus, the Bengals just don't like trading players. Like, they'll sit on a guy. I mean, it forced Carson Palmer to retire, basically, to get out of there, right? 77 career sacks, 34 in the last 2 years. He is as elite as pass rushers come. Average run defender. It's not a liability there, but it's not what he does. This seems like the kind of swing that John Schneider would have made a few years ago, but he's in a dry spell. Like I looked this up today. I didn't think it had been this long, but he hasn't made a big trade for a big name player since 2020. Jamal Adams, obviously, right? 2 first-round picks, third, and a player. Before that, though, 2019, Jadeveon Clowney. 2017, Sheldon Richardson and Dwayne Brown. 2015, of course, Jimmy Graham and Percy Harvin in 2013. That used to kind of be their MO. He hasn't done it in a while. Do you think there's a possibility it could happen this year? And specifically, what would your thoughts be if Trey Hendrickson really is available?
I would be surprised if they did it this year. And there's 2 factors there for me, is that number one, I think that in a lot of those other trades, I really truly think that they believe they were one player away from getting right back to that dominance that they had before. And, not including Percy Harvin, obviously they were right in the middle of it at that point, but they just felt like they needed one more little thing. But I think that there's a lot more than just one amazing pass rusher away from, getting to the Super Bowl. Now, would Trey Hendrickson greatly improve this team? Oh my God. Yeah. Right. I mean, that's what I talked about all off season, is I wanted a pass rusher. Yeah. That is no disrespect, but Nwosu was hurt all the time. And Mafe, he is good. Could he even get a little better? Yes, I think that he could. I think that he could get better, but I don't know. You have those question marks there. You have some of these other guys that can really maybe step up. And yet at the same time, will John Schneider get a little head shy after Jamal, right? Is he going to do that again when you have so many other needs? I'm not sure. Of the 3 players we're going to talk about, this is the one that I would be okay with.
Interesting.
Depending. Yeah. I will say this, Myles Garrett, though, that's the kind of money he's looking for, right? Trey Hendrickson is looking for that. Now, will he get that? No, Myles Garrett's obviously
Hunter money. Yeah. Myles Garrett's 30 now. Hunter's 31. Myles Garrett's 40 million annual and average annual value. Daniel Hunter and Max Crosby both about 35 and a half.
I think that would he settle if and there I read somewhere that someone's like, oh, the Bengals just need to up their offer to 32. You think $4 million is what's stopping this? No, it's got to be more than that, right? Either in the guarantees or something. The Bengals would give him $4 million more if that's the only hiccup here. But there's something else in there. And it could be long-term, it could be guaranteed, it could be a million different things. But that's the type of money. Is that where we want Seattle to spend that money? When you have not elite, but decent. I hate to hedge my bets, but young players that could still be, moving up, or their ceiling could be rising. I don't know. Yeah. I'm real hesitant for them to spend that amount of money, but if you're going to do it, this could be a guy. Now, but for how long? He is 31, right? And so we know those pass rushers, usually you hit that magic mark, right? You hit that magic age and things start to kind of fall apart. So you look a little bit and you have to weigh that back and forth. Would I be sad? Well, it depends on what they gave up, because Cincinnati's asking for a first round. They're not going to get it. If anyone was going to give it to them, they would have done it already, right? So that's not happening. So then you're at least giving probably a second and a player, or a second, 4th, 5th, 6th. You're giving quite a bit. You have to start to weigh those pros and cons. I could be talked into this, but it's not. My first reaction is no.
I'll give you my thoughts on whether I think that he might be willing to do something like this at the end. I want your thoughts on each one individually, and then I'll give you my thoughts. But the next one's Jalen Ramsey. And I'm actually surprised how many Seahawk fans would be in favor of this. And I think the reason is that we know that they've been kicking the tires on some veteran corners. We know they brought in Shaquille Griffin, former original draft pick of the Seahawks, for a visit. We know they brought Rasul Douglas in for a visit. Good player, Rasul Douglas, still at this point in his career. Shaq, things didn't really work out in Jacksonville the way he wanted to, but he had a pretty solid bounce back year in Minnesota last year. Played really well as kind of a rotational starter. So I think that's where it comes from. And then I think people remember what Jalen Ramsey used to be, but he's a few days away from turning 31, and he signed that ridiculous extension last year in Miami, 3 years, $72 million. Like, these are his cap hits for the next 4 years. 16.6 this year. Okay, no big deal. 25 next year, 27 the year after that, 36 the year after that when he would be 35 years old. And you can't, 2027's the first year that the cap savings eclipses the dead money. To me, this is a non-starter. Fans should put this one to bed. I know the Rams are interested in maybe a reunion. I don't see why any team, let alone the Seahawks, would trade for this contract.
I 1000% agree with you. I've seen a lot of people talking about, oh, we should get Jalen Ramsey. And my first instinct, if it's a Seahawks fan, is, are you just trying to stick it to the Rams because the Rams don't care, right? Like, so I don't see the draw there. He has played for 3 or 4 teams by the time he's 30. He has been in moments and for a season or so, an amazing player, but there's not the consistency there that I think that I would hope Schneider is looking for, right? Yeah. But I just don't, this one doesn't make any sense to me. Plus, I've been reading a lot, and I don't know if you've read this, let me know if you have, that there are lots of conversations that Ramsey should really switch to safety, that there's some
he was first acquired by the Dolphins. That was
right. That was a conversation. Yeah. And they're like, if you trade, you're going to have to trade in as a safety. Well, then that's not a help to Seattle, right? Like that's not where we need the help. And so
now the money looks even worse if he ends up playing safety on this deal.
100%. And so I think that I know that there is a segment of this fan base that is not a fan of Tariq Woolen. I still really like Tariq Woolen. And so I'm not ready to just toss that kid to the side. I think that he played so much better last year. And I think that this is a good environment for him. Not everyone has to agree with me on that. That's just my opinion. But I would not want to give that up for Jalen Ramsey. That is just that's not something I'm interested in at all.
Yeah. I think they were looking at Griffin and Douglas as veteran depth, rotational guys. I really do. They weren't looking to unseat. I'm still hopeful that Emin Warry's gonna click early enough and to be able to play that big nickel, the slot spot quite a bit. I want to see Devin Witherspoon play more outside, and then you're almost gaining 2 for 1, right? Which would leave Reek as the full-time starter, and then Job's your third guy rotationally,
who played pretty consistently last year. I didn't think he was bad at all last year. I mean, again, not elite, but
he's been one of the early stars of OTAs.
Yeah,
So,
totally agree.
All right, now the biggest name. And there's a connection here. It makes sense. When Adam Dirty was hired by Mike McDonald to be the defensive coordinator here in Seattle, the biggest endorsement he got was from the biggest name he coached, and that's Micah Parsons in Dallas, right? Just raved about Dirty as a teacher and a coach and how much he loved him and what a loss it was for that Cowboys staff. He's still just 26 years old. So this is a different animal. We're talking about, when he's healthy, the best defensive player in the NFL, probably.
Yeah.
It's just 26 years old. I mean, that's when, a lot of big defensive players say that they're just physically maturing, 25, 26. Just a $24 million cap hit this year. If Dallas were going to entertain trading him, that's certainly doable. But he's going to want a new contract. And now we're talking Myles Garrett plus. If Myles Garrett's making $40 million a year as a 30-year-old, almost 31, I mean, Parsons is going to rewrite the record books and he will be the highest paid defensive player of all time when he signs his new deal. Even can you get behind a healthy Micah Parsons in his prime for massive money?
Oh, I love him. I love everything about him. I love the way he plays. I love everything about Micah Parsons. The amount of money Jerry Jones is going to want and draft capital to let him go is going to exceed anything I think I'm comfortable with. If they could figure it out within something stomachable, right? I'm all in. I'm all in, right? I think that is a team-changing player. Not that I think that Hendrickson could be too, especially in, this team in the right situation, but I don't have the same strong feelings as I do about Micah Parsons. I think Jerry Jones is going to dig his heels in, and it's just not going to happen because
he has to.
If have you met him? No, not in person, but I mean, hello, right? Yeah, he nuttier than,
He likes to cost himself money by waiting too long too. How much more did he have to end up paying Dak because he didn't pay him when he should have?
What are you willing to give up for him?
I think a conversation, with just 1 year left on his deal, I think any conversation
starts
if you're calling the Cowboys is 2 firsts.
At least
is what it starts with. Unless maybe unless you have a young contract controlled, like rookie deal edge to replace. Like I don't know if the Cowboys love Derek Hall, maybe a first and Derek, but he's in the last year of his deal too.
Oh, true. Yeah, that's right.
That's where that gets complicated, right? So to me, but here's my argument for making one of these trades, and the reason that if he were to do something like this, and again, I think Ramsey's off the board, but Hendrickson I think makes a lot of sense because of his age. You can probably get him at a more reasonable deal, which is crazy to say about a $30 million a year contract, right?
Yeah.
Parsons, you're paying him just to be a star, to be a difference maker, to be a game changer. We know that they asked about Max Crosby when Todd first started with the Raiders.
My heart.
And so now that was before they signed DeMarcus Lawrence, right? And so not that you're going to not acquire an elite pass rusher because you have 32-year-old DeMarcus Lawrence. But my point is that they, even with Mafe and Hall and Nwosu, and he's been banged up, like they still took a swing at one of the elites, right? So the mindset's there. It's the one thing that I would say works in favor of them being in a position to maybe make a deal like this is I think the roster is set up in such a way that you could give up a 2026 first round pick and not really do any damage to your roster. There's so many rookie contracts on this roster right now.
It would be the 27 that would make me nervous.
And if you had to go that far, you've already, you have a young-ish quarterback under contract. You just drafted a guy that you think might be a developmental franchise quarterback. So you're probably not in the quarterback market next year anyway. And that's where a first-round pick might come in. Maybe a receipt, even the premium positions, like those are guys you can get later too, right? I think they could afford to part with that kind of draft capital, where maybe some of these trades they've made in the past, it was more of a risk because they really needed that. They should have spent it on their own players, right?
I agree with that.
That's kind of where I'm at on that.
I don't see them. I think you're going to have to give up 2, or you're going to have to give up a first and a pretty big player. So then you have to start evaluating that. I think that if you go after Micah Parsons, then you have to make sure you are okay with Sam Darnold being your quarterback for 3 years, because I think that's probably what it's going to take. I don't know that they're going to be that. I don't know that they'll know that until after a few games in with Sam Darnold. Right. And so, but you don't have that time. If Micah Parsons goes, he's going to go. Right. So if you could get it down to 1 first round pick and then maybe not an elite player. Yep. I'm in, depending on the money.
Here's the reason. Here's my thoughts on this. First of all, I'm with you. I think if any of these 3 makes the most sense, it's Hendrickson. Just because I think he would give them something they don't have. As much as we like the edges on this roster, they don't have a guy they can count on to give them consistent pressures and pass rush and dominate from that position as a pure pass rusher. They just don't have that. And I don't know if Mafe can be that guy. He shows flashes, and then for 2 or 3 games, he's kind of invisible and you sort of forget about him, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think they're going to do any of this because I think they want to figure out who they are and what they are. And as you mentioned, it's such a young roster and they like it. And there's so much talent already on defense. This defense, as we'll go first full circle here, right? Kind of started out talking about it at the top. This defense has a chance to be a top 5, top 3, top 2, dare I say, the best defense in the league this year as is.
Maybe.
Everybody healthy. Eminowari contributes. Mike McDonald does his thing. Like the pieces are there.
Yeah.
So why would you give up so much to bring in a player to elevate a unit that you might not need to elevate? Now,
I agree.
If we're at the trade deadline and Nwosu's hurt again, right? And DeMarcus Lawrence looks like the power hitter who's lost his bat speed, and Mafe doesn't take a step forward, so you don't think he's probably going to be re-signed. Like now, maybe a different story if Hendrickson just decides to come back, right, and just play on the last year of his deal, or if they make Parsons available at the deadline. Now we're talking about, okay, if you can get him as just a rental, like do the Leonard Williams deal and give him a 2nd round pick plus some and not have to give up first just to get 9 games out of him, different conversation.
Totally
different conversation.
Plus, then you have a good grasp on what's going on in your offense, and do you need to spend draft capital there? Can I give you a question?
Yeah.
So, what if you did a big swing, but it wasn't on defense?
Well, yeah.
I'm talking about
Throw
Terry
some names at me.
McLaurin.
Yeah. Who are you talking
Yeah,
about?
McLaurin. So he came out today and
I saw
said
that.
he is not happy.
Yeah.
There's lots of conversation that he's gonna have to be traded because they're nowhere near where they want to be.
Right.
With your defense being what I considered pretty much locked in. And just always say it looks good on paper, so we don't know about injuries and blah, 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 all the stuff and things. But I'm not as convinced. I'm not as all in on Cooper Kupp as everybody else is because that dude hasn't stayed on the field for an entire season in a minute, right?
Right.
So what if you looked at an offensive player, a wide receiver to come in? And not necessarily him, but just anyone, just to beef that up.
There's been a lot of Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave.
Yeah, I'm talking about it doesn't have to be him. I'm just saying
rookie deal. Yeah.
When that popped up today, I was like, why do we keep talking about defensive players?
I get
it.
I get it. Two things come to mind immediately. Number one, especially in reference to McLaurin, I think most fans would be shocked to know that he's almost 30 years old.
I know. They're all 30 because they're all trying to get that last big contract.
And he's going to want a big, wide receiver contract, 25, whatever the top of the market is now, and deserves it. You're going to have to pay JSN next year. Is that something you want to do? Get right back to paying 2 elite salaries? Because, you're also paying Cooper Kupp in the teens, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know that he necessarily makes sense. The Wilson Olave thing, you could probably get, I could get behind that. I mean, you just want to get the whole Ohio State band back together, right? Bring Nick Van Nett back too, right? But my thing with that is sometimes receivers it's hard for them to hit the ground running, right? You jump in to a new scheme. Now, if you made a deal now, you'd get the benefit of training camp, everything else.
And if it was Olave, because he could just come on over with his coach.
You would know absolutely. Yeah. He would know the offense,
different.
and that would make a lot of sense. And the Seahawks could absolutely, if he was really available, they could be in on that, because they have full assortment of draft picks next year. They have the cap space. They could do something like that. I would give the same answer that I just did on defense. So I think that they've made so many changes on offense. Like, let's just tamp it down a little bit, right? Let's see what we have.
Fair.
I also think now that we see, I know he's not doing 11 on 11 stuff, but he's out there running full speed and running routes and stuff. I think Torrey Horton, healthy Torrey Horton, is going to show people why he should have never been a 5th round pick.
Yeah. I'm a little excited to kind of see. I am
about something on offense. You're excited?
Oh no, what I was going to say was, no, just kidding. No, a little bit, but I am excited for them to just let it sit. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see this second year under this head coach. We got rid of Grubb, which that was a disaster. So let's see what Kubiak can do. We saw what he did in New Orleans. So let's see if he can make it better here. And let's just see. I am not swinging for the fences in 2025. I just don't think that is what you need to do this year. I know other people don't like waiting. There's the whole, I don't want to be middle of the road. I get all that stuff, but sometimes you just got to see what you got to know where the holes are so you can fix them the next year. And I think that is what early John Schneider and Pete Carroll did so well in those first couple of seasons. They watched what they had and they filled what they needed. And I'm hoping that that's what John is doing this time.
I think you make a great point. And people don't want to wait, and they also get tired of hearing, well, next year could actually be the year, right? And we've been saying that for a while around here. Like, just one more year, get that offensive line together, whatever. But this is actually something I was going to talk about in a couple of days on a different show, but I'll ask you this question then, or I'm going to make a statement. I want your thoughts on it.
Okay.
I actually think this is a transition year, and that as much as I think, and I picked him to win 11 games, I think the ceiling is higher than that, but like everything would have to go right. Mm-hmm. I think there's so many changes on offense, completely new scheme, new coaching staff, new quarterback, new wide receiver 2, a new tight end added to the mix. I think that the transition you saw last year on defense is we're going to see that on offense throughout the year. It might not always look great, but then at some point, hopefully it clicks. And then this time next year, all the things these defensive players are saying now, right? With Reed saying, we can play fast. We got everything down. They can throw more at us now. We can do more blitzes and be exotic and do the sim pressures and stuff. Meanwhile, JSN's over there saying, that's one day at a time. Next year, the offense is going to be saying those things, right? Second year under Kubiak. Now we got the scheme down. We made some strides. Everyone's locked in. We finally have a competent offensive line. Now we can start talking about really contending. And that's when you make a trade like this. right? When you know what you've got, or you dip into the free agent
Exactly.
market, because a lot of these names could potentially be free agents next year too. JT Watt's another one. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at on that. Like people don't want to hear it. It's not rebuilding. It's just a bridge, kind of a reset year. You agree?
I 100%. That's the whole point that I was just trying to make. I think just sitting and waiting and seeing how this works out. We saw how it worked out on defense. Can they build on that? Can they become that elite defense again? And now, the offense, can Sam Darnold do it again? Can JSN handle being the number one receiver? He's lost his two, bookends. And so now how is that going to be for him? I think that is going to be the fascinating. They brought in my Robbie Oots, who I'm just so freaking excited because that was my favorite interview of all the combine. So when they got him, I was thrilled. And so they have all of this kind of new young blood. And I think it's going to be fun to watch. It might be frustrating to watch sometimes, but we're Seahawks fans. We're kind of used to that at this point. But I think it could be really interesting to see how this unfolds.
And again, I'll say it again, man, and I'll keep saying it. It's all the focus is on the quarterback now, right? It's like, threw 3 interceptions in practice. Come on.
Who cares?
This is the 2025 season is going to come down to how well they can run the football. And I'm confident they're going to be at least a competent team running the football. And that's going to allow them to be in most of the games that they play.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's, fans don't want to hear it. They want it now. They want to be great now, but it takes time. Look at, that Detroit, we're in year 4 now of saying, is this the year the Lions win the Super Bowl? You think they're going to pop because they have all this young talent, but sometimes it takes a little while. Right. And this could be 2012 where the team, by the end of the year, they're not going to threaten for a Super Bowl, but they can win a playoff game. And then you go into the offseason thinking, okay, we finally got that. We got that side of the ball fixed. We got the offense fixed finally. We got that figured out.
Yep.
And, people will say, well, but then if they have maybe Kubiak gets hired, I don't think he has the personality to really command a room. He reminds me of Darrell Bevel a little bit. And I even felt this way about Schottenheimer, although here he is a head coach now.
Well, we'll see.
I just don't think he's a guy that's going to go wow in interviews or whatever. So I think we're safe for a couple of years. I also think that if that were to happen, it probably means the offense blew up, and that's a good thing.
Right. That's kind of where you want to be. Right. But yeah, I think it'll be, I don't know. I have said this in multiple places now. I am so jacked for this defense. I don't care what the offense does, but obviously I do. But I think that it's almost like we've heard this before. A great defense and a really good run game can win you a Super Bowl. So let's see if we can do it again, right?
Yep. And you see it all across the league too. There are very few offenses that just come out and dominate every week. It's a pendulum, and it's a roller coaster. And I'm excited too. I think it's much more demoralizing to watch your football team play if they can't stop people on defense than it is for the offense to struggle. Right. Because offenses, you can get a play here or there. But the last couple of years, I maintain it's one of the biggest factors that has led to Lumen Field not being the intimidating force that it used to be. It's because of the performance of the defense, because that's when the crowd would get into it. And if they just keep giving up 3rd and 8s and they keep giving up long drives, it sucks the wind at you, and you just maybe you start out the game all full of fire and brimstone and fireball. But
literally,
if you're down 21, like that Green Bay game, I think is a great example. Prime time, right? The defense had been playing well leading up to that. It was a big game. We had, some things on the line as far as postseason opportunities go, and the Packers just came down, ran it down our throats. Those first 2 drives, the game's over.
Yeah,
the crowd right out of it.
Yeah, it is interesting, and I think that just to kind of piggyback on the whole home field advantage thing, that the home field advantage is missing for a lot of teams in the NFL, and for multiple reasons and all kinds of things that we get into. That's a whole entire show. But I do think that you're right. First of all, you have to have players that you believe in. You have to have players that you know in order to cheer for. You have to have players that get as wound up as you do. Who are players that do that? Those are defensive players, right? And so as long as you have those guys who are, hyping you up and all of that, the crowd is going to stay in it. And then you need decent to solid play. And you need to keep your team on the field. So there you do need a really good run game is very helpful because then your team's on the field longer and you have more to get excited about. But I don't know. I understand where the media is coming from in a lot of places where they're like, I don't know about Seattle. I don't know about Seattle. But I think they only don't know about Seattle's offense. I don't think that there's any question about this defense at all. And I'm so excited about them because I am one of those defense wins championships type of people. So again, do I think it's this year? No. Could it be next year? Maybe.
Yeah. But this has to be the last year we say that, right?
Right. Well, I didn't say it last year. I will say that. I was like, I don't even know if we're going to win 5 games. Like I saw that schedule and that night was just like, forget it. This is a nightmare. But I do think it's going to be fun and it'll be telling. Yeah. Right. It will be telling for sure.
Yeah. I'm guilty of being overly optimistic at times. And that's kind of my MO. But I hope I don't ever change. I hope I don't ever fully become a cynic. Right. I'm more cynical now in my old age, but not, I don't want to fully convert. Mm-hmm. But I'm curious. I think that's it. I just rewatched Ted Lasso. So that word's really been sticking with me, but I'm just really curious about this season. Like to see how it goes. I'm 100% behind the process, how we got here and all the changes, but it's no guarantee it's going to work. Right.
Okay. So Dan, I have a question for you. So let's say we get to week 6. Mm-hmm. What's the record you need to see to stay optimistic?
My brain doesn't work that way.
Okay. No, totally fair.
It's, at the end of the year, do I feel like we're on an upward trajectory?
Okay.
Do I feel like we have the pieces in place to where all you have to do is supplement it, another off season, keep as many guys as you can. And now here we go. But okay. I think I have them going 4-2 in that first 6. I'd have to look at it again, what my prediction was, but I maybe 4-3 in the first 7. Cause I do think that offense is going to take a little while to gel.
Okay.
But I think the defense is going to give them opportunities to win those games. I've got us winning. I like the matchup week 1. I know the big matchup is, Seattle returns their defense intact, San Francisco, most of their offense intact. So that's going to be the big matchup in the game where San Francisco has a ton of changes on defense and they're going to be young as hell in their first game out against our offense with all the changes. So there's a lot of unknowns there. But I think Lumen will be rocking. And then at Pittsburgh, I had as a loss just because that defense should be pretty good, and it's at Pittsburgh, and that's
they can beat Aaron Rodgers.
Place to play for young people. But I took a lot of crap for my viewers for calling that a loss. But that was more so me just trying to find losses. Like you can't just have them going 17-0 because go Hawks.
No,
right?
No, it's unrealistic. Yeah, I
think I had them going 2-2 in the first 4, and then they went on a little bit of a run and then hit a snag. And I had them going 11-6.
Okay.
No,
I haven't predicted the season yet. I haven't because I think that I need to see more. I like to get into training camp first and kind of see it from that perspective a little bit, see who they add, who they don't. I'm real worried about that first game though, because we'll actually have a fully healthy Christian McCaffrey. That makes me nervous, but what a great test, right? That will tell us right away where we're at with this defense. 100%. So
you talk about overreaction in OTAs. 49er fans are watching practice film and saying, "Oh, he doesn't look as explosive. He doesn't have the juice."
What's wrong with him? It's like he's not going to run full force in OTAs. They're voluntary people. Come on. I love fan overreactions during voluntary OTAs. They're just
what did I see the other day out of Minnesota? Somebody posted that JJ McCarthy went 14 for 17 with 4 touchdowns and 11 on 11 or something. A historically good day. Like, who keeps stats in practice? Like
voluntary practice.
I've used the Allen Iverson meme so many times in the last 2 months.
Oh my God. It's so true. So true.
It was good to see you again. And you said you took some time off. Now the Our Turf gang is going to be getting back into things. You're still doing your thing over at Real Hawk Talk. What do you got going on through the rest of this offseason?
So Our Turf starts back up next Tuesday. We do a podcast every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, but it streams on all the streamers too. And then and we cover all 32 teams. So I literally have been playing catch up with like all the teams, and we start our division previews. We do 2 divisions. We usually do like AFC and NFC North, and do the Norths together, the Souths together, and we'll preview all of those I think the AFC and NFC West is June 17th, but don't quote me on that. But I think that's when that will be. And then, yeah, I still pop in over at Real Hot Talk with those guys every once in a while too. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Going to a couple of away games this year. Going to come to Seattle for a couple of games. So
Nice.
It really should be a nice fall.
You were talking about Nashville, right? Big get together.
Everybody seems to be going to Nashville. I think for obvious reasons. It's like game we should probably win, and it's a really fun town. So everybody's going to Nashville, and then I'll be at the season opener too. So it'll be good.
Right on. And for those of you, just so you know, the next couple of days, tomorrow, Corbin Smith will be joining me. He's been at all of the open practices the last few days, so he'll give us his impressions of what he's seen there. Max Brown is going to be joining me tomorrow. Back on the show. This will probably run Saturday, but he did a video on his channel the other day talking about how the Seahawks can use Jalen Milroe as a rookie in certain packages, but also Max played with Sam Brown at USC. It's one of the reasons he ended up transferring to Pittsburgh, because Sam won the job. So he's going to give us some insight into the quarterback position there. And then I'm trying to catch up with your buddy Jeff Simmons. We've been playing phone tag. I think Saturday we're going to try and get together and talk about potential breakout players. So that's what's coming up. And then, of course, for my viewers, as soon as I'm done here, I'm going to react blind, as I've been doing all week, to the quarterbacks and the kickers and punters, I think, I'm 2 days behind. I have to
wide receivers.
I have to do the linebackers, the kickers, the wide receivers, quarterbacks, and the top 50 in the order. I'll be reacting to that. So
good for you. And you're going to have to tell me what you think of those wide receivers.
Oh, that's where the surprises are. I heard there was.
That's where my irritation is. So we'll have to see. But yeah,
I heard there was some kicker controversy too.
I guess so. But
we'll have to take a look at that. Anyway, thanks for all of you for contributing. I'm glad the box was working. I love the ongoing ticker that we get to see. Yeah, it's good stuff. Appreciate all of you for watching, listening on all the audio platforms too. You can get us there. Got to get some music to take us out here. Hold on. At Seahawks Forever on Twitter and Blue Sky. Follow Dayna as well. Her handle is right there at Dayna OG. Good to see you again. We'll talk again when we get closer to the season.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All right. Forever and always go Hawks. Thanks for watching, you guys. See you next time.